This is the Baby Master PT live Q&A where you give me your questions and I answer them live on the air. So today's question came in from a parent of a set of twins, and she asked, we were talking about flathead syndrome or plagiocephaly, and the parent asked, can this be fixed at or after 6 months? I have twins who were born premature and both of them have this deformity. They had torticollis, but I somehow got it resolved by showing them toys or videos on my phone on the other side. So, first thing I want to say to this parent is congratulations on being proactive and helping your baby to resolve their torticollis on their own by just using some proactive strategies like showing them a video on your phone and being able to use that to help to correct the torticollis. Now, flathead syndrome or plagiocephaly just means that the back or one side of your baby's head is flattened or misshaped. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on this clipboard what the back of that head would typically look like. So if you're looking at baby and the back of their head is kind of squished down like that, looking very flat. Sometimes the flatness is off to one side, and so it looks like that. Now, what I want to do is spend a couple of minutes talking a little bit about how to look at your baby's face, look at your baby's head, how you should really be examining your baby's head to determine the degree of flatness that your baby has going on with the back of their head. So let me bring the baby up. Now, if you are sitting and you're looking at your baby straight on, you're looking at your baby's face this way, then you may not see anything wrong with your baby. You may not notice that your baby has a flat head or has a flat spot developing. And especially if baby has hair, some babies have hair, some babies have a little less hair. But if your baby has hair, the hair may be covering up that flat spot. And so you might not be able to see it, especially if you're just looking at baby's face. Now, here's what I want you to do if you suspect that your baby has a flat spot forming on the back of their head. Position baby on the ground like this, like seated in between your legs, to where you're sitting behind baby and you can look down from above on the top of your baby's head. That is the best way to determine if your baby has a flathead syndrome. If you are viewing baby's head from this point of view, so you should be looking directly onto the top of your baby's head. Now, I'm sitting down. I have baby close to my body. I'm looking directly down on the top of baby's head. That is the way you should examine your baby's head to determine if your baby has flathead syndrome or plagiocephaly. If you want to do it seated on the couch with your baby on the couch, you can have baby laying on the couch and you can sit on the ground like this so that you're looking at the top of baby's head and you'll be able to see that flatness. Sometimes you'll notice the flatness is, like I said before, the flatness is in the back of baby's head so that the skull is kind of squished down like that and it's more wide side to side. But for these particular set of twins that we're talking about, mom reported that these babies had torticollis, which she was able to correct by using her phone to distract them to the opposite side. Now, there is a significant link between plagiocephaly or flathead syndrome and torticollis. Torticollis is a tightness in the neck muscle that causes baby's head to tilt towards one side. Now, when baby's head tilts towards one side, it typically rotates in the opposite direction. So let's say this baby that I'm working with here has a left side torticollis. It means that baby's head would be tilted towards her left side, but her face will be rotated towards her right side. And when that happens, now you'll notice a flat spot forming on the right side of this baby's head. So that's something I want you to pay attention to and look out for as you're examining your baby to determine if your baby has a flat spot. You can also just take your hands and rub your hands along the back of baby's head, and you will be able to feel it. Now, the parent also asked me, what's the window that you can correct flathead syndrome without a helmet? Most people are afraid of a helmet. They feel like there's a certain stigma out there in the world where your baby has a helmet, and other parents are going to look at your baby weird, or other kids are going to look at your baby weird. And so people are kind of hesitant to do the helmet. First of all, let me say this clearly. We should stop the shaming with regard to the helmet. I've used helmets with a lot of babies. I've worked with babies and recommended helmets for them, and their heads turned out fine. The helmeting works really well if you start it early. So what is the window? When your baby is first born, their skull is not fully fused together. It's not the skull of like an adult. When your baby is born, they have these plates with these sutures in between the plates, and those plates move and shift as your baby's brain expands and your baby's skull grows to accommodate the expanding brain. Now, what the helmeting is typically going to do is take advantage of this window where baby's skull is malleable or moldable, and be able to reposition baby's skull softly and gently so that it can grow and round itself out as the brain is expanding and as the skull is expanding. Now, the earlier you take action and decide, you know what, my baby's plagiocephaly, my baby's flathead syndrome is kind of significant. It's defined in 3 different categories: mild, moderate, or severe. And if you have a moderate or severe flathead syndrome, more than likely you should get the helmet. Now, if you notice it at month 2 or 3, that is the perfect window, because the ideal window for helmeting to be effective is between 4 and 8 months. So this parent with her set of 6-month-old twins is right in the middle of that sweet spot. But keep in mind that as baby gets older and older, the plates in baby's head start to fuse to each other. And once they start fusing, and those sutures in your baby's skull fuse together, then baby's skull becomes less and less malleable, less and less moldable. And the reshaping that the helmet is going to do is actually less and less effective. And also the time frame that your baby may have to wear the helmet increases significantly the longer you wait. So it's one of those things where I always urge parents, if your baby has a flat head, go get it evaluated, determine if a helmet would help your baby or not, and then go ahead and pull the trigger and do it. Now, let's talk a little bit about what helmeting is and how that is going to impact your baby. First of all, the baby will need to wear the helmet for 23 out of the 24 hours. So once you go down this road, you have to be committed. I've seen parents who start wearing the helmet, the baby starts crying, it's a hot day, baby sweats a little bit, and they take it off in the middle of the day so the baby's head can cool down, forget to put it back on, and then the next thing you know, 8 out of 24 hours have gone by and baby has not been wearing the helmet. If you don't use the helmet, it's not going to work, obviously. And then 6 months, 8 months later, they tell me, oh, the helmeting didn't work. The helmeting didn't work because you did not use the helmet and follow the protocol. Now, the inside of the helmet has this soft, semi-soft foam. And what that does is it doesn't push against any part of your baby's skull and have this constant pressure on the part of your baby's skull. It just limits, where it gently touches part of your baby's skull and limits the amount of growth that particular area is going to have. But now, if you look at the inside, the molding of the inside of the helmet, the shape of the inside of the helmet is actually going to let the areas that will be flat in babies, on the back of baby's head, to actually continue to grow out and conform to the inside of the helmet. Each helmet is going to be customized to your baby. They're going to take a bunch of scans of your baby's skull once you go in for the evaluation and customize a helmet. So no two helmets are exactly the same. You can't borrow someone else's kid's helmet, because each helmet is going to be customized to your baby's skull and to be able to shape your baby's skull. So a couple of techniques that you can try to help your baby to passively correct the flat head. Now, most babies, like I said, who have flat head have torticollis. So if the baby has torticollis, a baby is tilting their head to one side and rotating their head to the opposite side, what you want to do is continue to put your baby to sleep on their back so the baby is safe breathing wise and doesn't get SIDS and pass away. We don't want that. So a lot of times parents have things on one side of the crib that's hanging on one side. And so baby rotates their head, turns their head to look at the stuff hanging on the side of the crib. What you can do is simply, if the things or the television is on one side, my television is over on that side of the room, and baby's rotating their head to look at the television. Now, if baby is turning their head and they're rotating onto their flat spot, this is typically what babies normally do when they're lying on their back during the day. They kind of just gradually rotate onto the flat spot because it's flat and it's just a little bit more comfortable for baby to sleep in this position. Now, if you reposition baby, if the toys are on this baby's her right side, if you take baby and you flip her around, put her this way, when she is awake, she will likely have to turn her head in the opposite direction to be able to view the toys. And that's a simple passive way that you can reposition baby. So, and cue baby gently without you trying to stretch the neck or do anything like that, to go ahead and do some gentle repositioning. Another technique that you can use, I've often found that babies who have this flat spot have a particular side that they feed from a little bit easier. And so a baby who has a flat spot on the back of the left side of her head would rotate her head and just be a little bit more comfortable feeding from the right, because she has to turn her head towards the left side. So what I encourage parents to do is simply do this: switch the arms, switch everything around, hold baby in your left hand, take the bottle and touch the nipple towards the right side of your baby's mouth. And if you just deliberately do that, baby, especially when baby is hungry, she wants to feed, she's anxious to get the nipple in her mouth, she will fight and rotate her head towards the right side. And now you're feeding from your opposite side. Of course, parents, everybody is handed, people are right-handed or left-handed. One arm is going to be a little bit more comfortable for you, the parent. And so this will take just a little bit of practice and getting used to the position, as well as your baby getting used to the position, so that you can do that. And if you switch back and forth, if every time you feed, you switch to the opposite side, now your baby will be rotating their head, actively correcting their torticollis. Like this parent said, her baby had torticollis. And so actively correcting the torticollis, which will help to free up the neck muscles, get those sternocleidomastoid muscles more in balance with each other, and be able to just start making both of them much more equal, where one side is not shortened and tight and the other side is overstretched. If the baby is rotating their head side to side more and more, then the baby is getting more and more comfortable turning and controlling their head, and be able to actually start to correct the torticollis, which will help to correct the flathead syndrome or plagiocephaly much sooner. Now, I'm going to do another video where I go a little bit deeper into the helmet and what that protocol involves and when it might be too late for even helmeting, when to consider a helmet. So stay tuned for that, and I will talk to you soon. All right, I'll see you in the next video.